On July 4, 2025, President Donald Trump signed into law the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a sweeping tax and spending package that has sparked significant debate and controversy both domestically and internationally. This nearly 900-page legislation, passed by a narrow margin in the U.S. Congress, represents a cornerstone of Trump's second-term agenda, extending his 2017 tax cuts, implementing substantial spending cuts, and introducing new policies on immigration, health care, and social programs. The bill's passage marks a major legislative victory for Trump and the Republican Party, but its implications extend far beyond the United States, with potential economic, social, and geopolitical consequences for the global community. This video examines the key components of the bill, its domestic impacts, and how it is likely to affect the world. The bill extends and expands the tax cuts from Trump's first term, totaling approximately $4.5 trillion over the next decade. These cuts primarily benefit high-income earners, with the wealthiest families potentially gaining an additional $12,000 annually, while lower-income households may face an additional tax burden of $1,600 per year. The legislation also introduces temporary deductions for tips, overtime pay, and auto loans, as well as a $6,000 deduction for seniors earning up to $75,000 annually. However, the Congressional Budget Office projects that the bill will add $3.3 trillion to the U.S. national debt over the next decade, raising concerns about long-term fiscal sustainability. The bill imposes significant cuts to federal safety net programs, particularly Medicaid, introducing work requirements for able-bodied adults aged 19 to 64 enrolled through Medicaid expansion. These requirements mandate at least 80 hours per month of work, volunteering, schooling, or job training. The CBO estimates that nearly 12 million more Americans could be uninsured by 2034 due to these changes. Additionally, the bill reduces funding for food assistance programs, potentially affecting millions of low-income families. A significant portion of the bill allocates $350 billion for border and national security, including funding for an aggressive immigration enforcement strategy. This includes expanding the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency and introducing new fees, such as a $250 visa integrity fee for temporary visas, for example, tourist, student, or work visas, and a 1% tax on remittances sent abroad. These measures aim to finance immigration enforcement, but have raised concerns about their impact on migrant communities and international relations. The bill rescinds tax credits for clean energy initiatives, aligning with Trump's campaign promise to prioritize traditional energy sectors. This move has drawn criticism for undermining global efforts to combat climate change. The Social Security Administration sent emails claiming the bill eliminates taxes on Social Security benefits for most recipients. However, experts have debunked this as misleading, noting that the bill, passed through budget reconciliation to avoid a Democratic filibuster, does not directly address Social Security due to procedural constraints. The passage of the bill has elicited polarized reactions within the United States. Supporters, primarily Republicans, argue that the tax cuts will spur economic growth, with Trump claiming the legislation will make the U.S. economy a rocket ship. The bill's provisions, such as no taxes on tips and overtime, are framed as relief for working-class Americans and seniors. However, the narrow passage in Congress, 51 to 50 in the Senate, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote, and 218 to 214 in the House, reflects significant dissent even within the Republican Party. Only 2 House Republicans and 3 GOP senators opposed the bill, citing concerns about its impact on the national debt and health care access. Democrats, led by figures like House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who delivered a record-breaking 8-hour and 44-minute speech to delay the bill's passage, have condemned the legislation as a betrayal of the American people. They argue that it disproportionately benefits the wealthy while slashing critical safety net programs, potentially exacerbating inequality and leaving millions without health care or food assistance. Civil rights leaders, such as Marc Morial of the National Urban League, have warned that the bill will disproportionately harm marginalized communities, particularly in states like Louisiana with high Medicaid enrollment. A notable critic is Elon Musk, a former Trump ally and major campaign donor, who has publicly opposed the bill, arguing it will bankrupt America. Musk's announcement of the formation of the America Party to challenge the two-party system and unseat lawmakers who supported the bill underscores the depth of the rift. This feud, described as a clash between the world's richest man and the world's most powerful, has already impacted Tesla's share price and could influence Republican prospects in the 2026 midterm elections. The bill's $3.3 trillion addition to the U.S. national debt could have ripple effects on global financial markets. As the U.S. dollar remains a cornerstone of the global economy, increased borrowing may lead to higher interest rates and inflation, potentially destabilizing economies that rely on dollar-based trade. The 1% remittance tax, reduced from an initial 5%, will affect countries like India, which received $129 billion in remittances in 2024, with 28% originating from the U.S. This tax could reduce disposable income for families in developing nations, potentially slowing economic growth in those regions. The bill's aggressive immigration policies, including increased deportations and new visa fees, could strain relations with countries like El Salvador, where 238 Venezuelans with active asylum cases were recently deported. The $250 visa integrity fee may deter tourism, student exchanges, and temporary work programs, affecting countries that rely on these interactions with the U.S. Additionally, the remittance tax could prompt diplomatic pushback from nations dependent on these funds, potentially leading to trade or policy disputes. The elimination of green energy credits signals a retreat from U.S. commitments to climate change mitigation, potentially undermining international agreements like the Paris Accord. Countries investing heavily in renewable energy, such as those in the European Union, may view this as a setback in global efforts to reduce carbon emissions, possibly prompting retaliatory trade measures or diplomatic tensions. The bill's passage coincides with other Trump administration actions, such as discussions with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, suggesting a complex foreign policy landscape. The increased focus on immigration enforcement and border security may embolden nationalist movements in other countries, while the bill's domestic unpopularity could weaken Trump's global influence if it leads to political instability in the U.S.